Hello, YouTube. Um, this is Noob DM Ariel back with you with another video. I wanted to go ahead and upload this one last week, but I had some difficulties with the video recording software, so I guess better late than never. I wanted to make a video focusing on the D&D 3.5 classes we're currently zooming or would like to play. Um, right now, I am engaged in a 3.5 campaign via Zoom. And we are following the Player's Handbook 3.5 edition by Monty Cook, Jonathan Tweet, Skip Williams et al., of course, as published by Wizards of the Coast all the way back in 2003. And the class that I'm playing currently is the Barbarian, which if you want to follow along with the discussion, I have it starts on page 24, I believe, of the Player's Handbook, and that's kind of like a shot of what the Barbarian looks like in that edition. And the Barbarian's class skills and the key ability for each skill are the following: climbing, craft, handle animal, intimidate, jump, listen, ride, survival, and swimming. And they basically do different things, but basically those are the kind of like the skills that you can choose. It's part of the class. So at first level, which is we started a couple weeks ago, you get four skill points in addition to the intelligence modifier times four. And so after each additional level in third edition 3.5, you get plus four skill points plus the intelligence modifier. Um, and all of those are just class specific to the barbarian class. Also, there's a weapon and armor proficiency, which means that a barbarian is proficient with all simple and martial weapons, light armor, medium armor, and shields, except for tower shields. And that makes sense, because the barbarian is a tanky fighter. You use the rage mechanic, and you're pretty much there taking the damage for the party. At first level, the base attack bonus for the barbarian is +1 with a fortitude save of +2, a reflex save there's no reflex save modifier actually, and there's no will save. But you do get some fast movement. Um, you're illiterate, unfortunately, but you can improve that with adding some skills, some points to taking some skills on that. And then you rage only one time a day. But now we've progressed in the game enough so that we have our barbarian at fourth uh, level, and that gives you a base attack bonus of +4, which means that you get stronger as you level. Obviously, your fortitude save is at +4 as well, and then you have a reflex save of +1 and a will save of +1. And best of all, you get to rage twice a day. So that comes in pretty handy when you're bashing monsters and doing what you will. So the book says that in addition to weapon and armor proficiency, and in addition to the fast movement, unfortunately you're illiterate. Um, Barbarians are the only characters which do not automatically know how to read and write, but you can spend skill points to gain that ability. The important mechanic with the class is the rage mechanic, of course, and that hasn't changed all the way dating back to whenever the barbarian was introduced. Basically, a barbarian can fly into a screaming blood frenzy a certain number of times per day. My character can do it up to 2 times because he's now fourth level. And a barbarian gains phenomenal strength and durability, but becomes reckless and less able to defend himself. So there's drawbacks. Obviously, you're not going to be able to rage the whole campaign or the whole entire time. Okay, the next class we're going to be looking at is the Rogue, and you can follow along with that on page 49 of the PBH. And Rogues, basically, we do have one in our party, thankfully, and they basically The book says that they adventure for the same reason they do most other things, to get what they can get. Some are after loot, others want experience. Some are craving fame, while others seek infamy. Quite a few also enjoy a challenge. So figuring out how to thwart a trap or avoid an alarm is great fun for many rogues. Give me a second here. I forgot to do something. Okay. Let's see. What are some other characteristics? They're highly skilled and they can concentrate on developing any of several categories of skills. And so at first level, um, our rogue started with a there's no base attack bonus, and it only really has a reflex save, um, but it does have a special sneak attack, which is plus 1d6, and the ability to for trap finding, and that makes sense. I mean, if you're just starting out in your career as an adventurer in this type of class, you would not really need it as much, except for reflex, because reflex comes into um, it's a skill that comes in handy for somebody that's got to be sneaky. And then this character at fourth level, which is where our current as I mentioned, campaign is at fourth level, you do have a base attack bonus at +3. And you do have a +1 to the fortitude save. I mentioned the reflex save is a +4, and the will save of +1. And then your sneak attack goes up to +2d6, and your trap sense also goes up 1. So basically, um, rogues are really interesting to play. As in terms of a race, they're pretty adaptable and often unprincipled. Humans take to the rogue's life with ease, but other races like halflings, elves, and half elves also find themselves well suited to the demands of this career. Um, there are dwarf and gnome rogues, but they're not as common as the humans and the other classes. But those types of rogues are renowned as experts with locks and traps, while the half orc rogues tend toward thuggery, which makes sense because half orc more of an aggressive race than the human or other races. So, so what do they do in the group? Like what do they in our group? Basically, our rogue's role is can be different depending on what our campaign is what our setting is doing, and the DM is explaining. But basically, their roles can vary dramatically based on their skill selection, from charismatic non con artists to cunning burglars to agile combatants. But most rogues are certain aspects. They aren't capable of prolonged melee combat, so they're not hand-to-hand fighters type of thing. And they also focus on opportunistic sneak attacks or range attacks. So if you play like a game like World of Warcraft or an MMO, you can see where they continue this type of archetype. The character that does the sneak attacks, pretty good um, with opportunistic um, attacks, and of course stealth and trap finding ability. Make him a pretty good scout. Um, so the class skills for the rogues include um, the key ability is praise, balance, bluff, climbing, crafts, deciphering a script, diplomacy, disable device, disguise, escape artist, forgery, gather information, hide, intimidate, jump, knowledge, listen, move silently, open lock, perform, profession, search, sense, sense motive, sleight of hand, spot, swim, tumble, use of magical device, and use of a rope. So in terms of when they started out at first level, they are 8. It's an 8 plus the intelligence modifier times 4, and then each additional level, every level that they gain, it's an 8 plus the intelligence modifier. So um, pretty much sneak attacking, opening up traps, uncanny dodge, and those type of special abilities. So that's what that is. What's pretty interesting, I so far looking into the 3.5 game mechanics versus other um, editions or other forms of D&D is that the skills and the feats also play a very pivotal role in the characters, and so it's yeah, it's definitely a varied type of class. Move silently, listening, searching, picking the locks, and all the stuff that you would associate with with this type of character. And I think in earlier divisions they were called a thief. Like first edition, I think they were called a thief. Or I hope I'm not confusing those. You can correct me if you see this and it's not correct. But I'm pretty sure that they were thieves before they were I my fourth edition also had a bunch of specialized classes where they broke down the different characters into different subsets. And I don't know if fifth edition. I think fifth edition may do that as well. So where you have a wizard, for example, in third edition, but then you also have the illusionists or the sorcerers, different type of like spellcasters, and that's something that's pretty prominent, like in in the going back to the early editions of the game, but especially fourth edition where you had a lot of specific specializations. Anyway, and you are able to multi-class with this class. So the last class I want to discuss for today's video is the wizard. I actually recorded this part earlier, but the audio didn't sync well with the video, so here it goes again. Maybe an abridged, short version of it. But we're talking about the wizard, and we do have a wizard in our campaign. Chuck, if you're watching this, and the thing with the wizard is that the spellcasters tend to be pretty what we call squishy. And if you are familiar with the MMO world, then you understand what I'm saying. Basically, they're weak characters in terms of like they can't wear any armor, especially at the early levels. I remember first edition they called them magic users, and the magic users were pretty powerful as they went. They gained levels, but in the early on, not so much. So in third edition or 3.5, um, the wizard adventures deal with conducting adventures with caution and forethought, according to the player's handbook. When prepared, they can use their spells to devastating effect. Um, when caught by surprise, they are vulnerable. They seek knowledge, power, and their resources to conduct their studies. Wizards may also have any of the noble or ignoble motivations that other adventurers have. Um, some other characteristics include the wizard's strength is their spell, his or her spells, obviously. Everything else is secondary. They learn new spells as they experiment and grow in experience, and they can also learn them from other wizards. In addition to learning new spells, the wizard can, over time, learn to manipulate his or her spells so they go further, work better, or are improved in some other ways. Some of the wizard skills include spellcraft, concentration, knowledge, arcana, what they refer to as arcana, decipher script, hide, move silently. So that's an ability or a skill that they share with the rogues in terms of being stealthy. Search and spot. I'm not exactly sure what the difference between a search and a spot skill. I'd have to look that up. I suspect that it has to do with a more in spot is just kind of like you're able to discern something or spot something where other characters can't really see it. Whereas search is like more detailed and in depth, but don't quote me on that. That's what I think. So they're able to have multiple feats or different feats and specializations. They don't wear any armor, but they're pretty quick. Their speed is like 30 feet movement. They can use a quarterstaff for weapons, and they like crossbow. These are some of the wizard starting packages. And their skill selection, I just read you those. Actually, those starting packages are for the elf wizard, actually, because the wizards can be all kinds of different races too. One, let's see. Well, the wizards also can obtain a familiar, in exactly the same manner as a sorcerer can. Familiar is like this little creature that follows them along and aids them in their adventures. I don't believe that our wizard in our campaign has a familiar, or at least they never really um, employed one. I'm pretty sure they can summon one if they wanted to at higher levels. Um, and then at first level, they have a wizard gains the scribe scroll as a bonus feat, and that feat enables him or her to create magic scrolls, which comes in pretty handy, um, as you can imagine. Um, then they get bonus feats as they experience and move up. So let's see. Our wizard is now started in first level, and the first level out like everybody else. And the first level a couple of weeks ago had a base attack bonus of 0, no base attack, no fortitude save, no reflex save, rather. Will save. Will save was the only save, which is with a +2 on that. But they were able to summon their familiar as a special characteristic and scribe scroll. And the thing about the wizards is they're able, as they go up, like I mentioned, as they go up in levels, they're able to get more and more powerful. So, and they can cast different spells per day on a daily basis. At first level, not so much. They can cast like 3 level spells, and then they can cast one first level spell. But that's about it. But right now we're up to fourth level, and so at fourth level, the wizard increases to a +2 base attack bonus, and they also have a +1 on the fortitude save now, and the reflex save is also +1, and they have a +4 on their will save. Because again, because they're a squishy character, and they're kind of weak. They can't really normally wear armor. You don't have your wizard up in front conducting battle. That's what your melee characters are for. They're more range attacks and casting spells, sort of sitting in the back and trying to take aim at whatever the monsters or whatever opposition the game master throws at them. Um, let's see. So, arcane spells and armor. There is a description about that wizards and sorcerers do not know how to wear armor effectively. Um, If desired, they can wear armor anyway, though they will be clumsy, or they can gain training in the proper use of armor with the various armor proficiency feats. So they take a feat to learn light armor, to learn about how to use medium armor, um, and heavy armor and shield proficiency. Um, or they can just multi-class to add these type of class features, armor proficiency basically. But even if a wizard or sorcerer is wearing armor with he or she is proficient, however, they might still interfere with their spell casting, which is why they don't not typically wear armor. You don't want anything interfering with your spell casting, especially in the middle of a combat. Um, so most characters have a difficult time casting arcane spells while wearing armor or carrying their shields because the armor restricts the complicated gestures that they must make while casting a spell that has a somatic component. And most of them do. Most of the spells have a somatic component. Basically means, they have to move their arms, do a ritual, that type of stuff. By contrast, though, other characters like a bard, for example, which we don't have one, unfortunately, in our campaign currently, um, only know how to wear light armor effectively, but they uh, not only know how to wear light armor effectively, rather, but they can also ignore the arcane spell failure chance for wearing that armor. So armor is a big problem for spellcasters. And then, of course, there's also part of the school specialization as part of the class, specialized schools that wizards attend to learn their spells. We have kind of a running gag in our 3.5 Zoom campaign with our wizard saying that he's a failed wizard, and so he went to wizard school but he failed. And I was having when I first recorded this, I was having kind of a brain freeze, and I couldn't recall in modern pop culture, something like Harry Potter, because I'm not really a big Harry Potter fan, but I or high fantasy type movies, but um, that's kind of I think where the trope became that type of school specialization that actually the wizards go to learn their spells. Um, in D&D 3.5, for example, the 8 schools of arcane magic, there's different schools. So they have 8 schools. The schools are abjuration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation, illusion, necromancy, and transmutation. Spells that don't fall into any of these specific schools are called universal spells. So you have your different type of schools that the wizards are, you know, they go to learn their spells. And so when I was talking about the starting package with the armor and the weapons and their skill selections, it was specifically for an elf wizard because they can be different kind of classes um, and different races rather. Can all become wizards. Um, the human sorcerer starting package actually is specialized because they have no armor, but they can use a short spear. That's what our wizard in our campaign is a human wizard, and they can use a short spear, which does 1d6 and crit times 2 from a range, including 20 feet. And then they can also use a light crossbow, which is 1d8 with a crit between 19 and 20 times 2. Um, and they can pick a number of skills equal to 3 plus the uh, intelligence modifier. So spellcraft, concentration, knowledge, arcana, bluff, gather information, diplomacy, hide, and move silently are the skills. I think they're pretty much the same as the ones I read earlier for the elf skills for the most part. There's a couple that are probably just um, specific to humans. So at first level, they use magic missile and sleep. That's exactly what but our wizard was using a lot of the time, most of the time, magic missile and sleep. And then they have the feat of toughness, and combat casting is a bonus feat, and that's it. That's basically wizards in a nutshell. So thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you enjoy this content. If you do enjoy this content, go ahead and subscribe because I plan to make, now that I've figured out all the ins and out of this well, most of the basics for this video recording software. I'll be trying to make or be making more videos routinely on Dungeons and Dragons, starting off with 3.5 because that's what our current campaign is. But probably we'll do other additions if we move into that, or if people are interested in comparisons or getting some more content on the other different types of editions. So thank you so much, and I look forward to doing some more of these for you. I hope you enjoy it, and have a great week.